You won't believe what one HOA president did when she decided my Lambo didn't belong in her perfect little neighborhood. It started with letters and ended with flames. Before we dive into today's story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so we can keep bringing you amazing stories like this one. Let's get into it. The sun had just begun its climb over the carefully landscaped hills of Westfield Heights, casting golden light over a neighborhood designed to look like a postcard from suburbia. The morning air was quiet, save for the occasional bird call, until the deep, guttural roar of my Lamborghini Huracan Evo Spyder shattered the silence like a war drum. It wasn't subtle, and that was the point. I'd worked a decade in tech, grinding through 18-hour days, running on caffeine and ambition. I'd sold my startup last year for enough money to set myself up for life, and this car? It was my victory lap. The glossy Arancio Xanto orange paint shimmered under the rising sun as I pulled through the wrought iron gates of the community, each house along the tree-lined avenue seemingly watching me with a mixture of admiration and alarm. The Lambo rolled smoothly down Alderbrook Lane, its aggressive purr echoing off manicured lawns and pristine facades. I caught a few neighbors peeking through blinds or frozen in place mid-sprinkler adjustment. But it wasn't until I reached my newly purchased colonial-style house at the end of the cul-de-sac that the real showdown began. Standing on the porch directly across from me was a woman in her early 60s, arms folded tightly, mouth twisted like she'd tasted vinegar. Her name was Karen Whitmore, and if you believe the neighborhood newsletter, she was practically the mayor of Westfield Heights. She wore a pastel pink velour tracksuit that had no business existing past 2006 and a visor that seemed to radiate judgment. As I stepped out of the car, she was already crossing the street. "Excuse me," she barked, her sneakers squeaking indignantly against the pavement. "That vehicle, what is that doing here?" I blinked. "Good morning to you too," I replied, keeping my tone light. "This is my new home. Just moved in yesterday." Her eyes never left the Lamborghini. "This is a residential neighborhood," she declared, enunciating every syllable like I was hard of hearing. "We have very clear standards. And that," she said, pointing at my car like it was a crime scene, "violates several of them." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you talking about noise ordinances?" I asked. "Because the car's street legal. I'm not exactly drag racing through the subdivision." "It's not just the noise," she said, now producing a laminated copy of the HOA bylaws from a giant tote bag. "It's the aesthetic disruption. Page 7. Vehicles that detract from the community's visual harmony may be subject to review." I took the pamphlet, trying not to laugh. "Visual harmony?" "Yes," she snapped. "Westfield Heights prides itself on subtlety, refinement, and decorum. Bright orange race cars do not belong here." I tried to reason with her, politely pointing out that the clause was vague at best, and that nothing in the state code prohibited me from owning or parking my car in my own driveway. But she wasn't having it. She huffed, turned, and marched back across the street, muttering something about emergency meetings and calling the board. I shrugged it off. Every neighborhood had a Karen, right? But I'd underestimated her. The next day, a neatly folded note appeared on my windshield. It was written in cursive with blue ink on monogram stationery. "Dear neighbor, your vehicle has become a topic of great concern to the community. Its color and sound are alarming to several residents. Please consider a more appropriate automobile for the area. With concern, HOA President Karen Whitmore." I laughed and tossed the note in the passenger seat. The following morning, there was another, this one with printed photos of my car taken from different angles, as if I were under surveillance. A few days later, I received an official HOA violation notice for failure to maintain community standards. That same week, 2 noise complaints were filed to the local precinct, both logged anonymously. One of them claimed that my car's engine revving had caused a neighbor's elderly cat to suffer a panic attack. Another claimed it disrupted a child's violin practice, a claim that turned out to be from Karen's own granddaughter, who apparently hadn't touched a violin in 5 years. Things escalated when I received a letter threatening daily fines unless I removed the car from view. I posted a screenshot to my social media with the caption, "When your HOA thinks Lamborghini is a felony." It went viral, sure, But it made things even worse on the home front. I started noticing my trash cans being knocked over. My mailbox was vandalized one night, the door yanked off completely. Then came the sugar in the gas tank. Thankfully, I caught it before starting the engine. When I reported it to the police, they asked if I had any suspects. Well, there's this woman, I started. They just gave me that tired look that said, "Good luck proving anything." Karen began patrolling the street like she was on neighborhood watch duty, always appearing right as I pulled into my driveway. Once, I spotted her standing in her yard at 2 a.m. with a pair of binoculars. When I confronted her, she said she was stargazing. The tension became so thick you could slice it with a spoiler. Neighbors who once waved at me started turning their backs. One even asked if I could just park it in the garage to keep the peace. But the car was too long to fit entirely, and besides, I wasn't about to be bullied into hiding it like it was something shameful. Karen, meanwhile, was on a crusade. She began distributing flyers claiming unlicensed exotic vehicles posed fire risks and were prone to explosions. She even claimed the fumes could damage local air quality. One neighbor told me she had started circulating a petition to ban all non-standard vehicles from a neighborhood, complete with a list of suggested makes and models. My Lamborghini, of course, was at the top of the list. But I still didn't think she'd actually go that far. Until one night it happened. I just come back from dinner with friends in the city, parked the Lambo on the driveway like usual, and went inside. Around 2:43 a.m., I woke to a loud popping noise, followed by a blinding orange glow flashing through my bedroom window. I ran to the front door barefoot, heart pounding. My Lamborghini was engulfed in flames, fire curling over the hood, smoke pouring into the sky like a signal flare. Neighbors poured out into the street in bathrobes and confusion. Someone had already called 911. I stood there in shock, the heat of the blaze brushing against my face, the smell of burning rubber choking the air. It was gone. My car, my celebration, my trophy, my dream was gone. And though no one saw her do it, I knew in my gut who was behind it. Karen watched from across the street, arms folded just like the day we met. She said nothing, just stared at me through the smoke, and smiled. The charred skeleton of my Lamborghini sat in the driveway for 2 days, taped off with flimsy yellow police ribbon that fluttered like some cruel joke in the morning breeze. The fire marshal confirmed it wasn't an accident. Someone had doused the car in accelerant and lit it intentionally. Arson, a felony. The detective assigned to the case, a guy named Hernandez with tired eyes and a coffee-stained tie, took my statement and nodded as I laid it all out. The feud, the notes, the vandalism, the threats. "You think it was her?" he asked, flipping through a notepad. "Karen Whitmore?" "I know it was her," I said, "but I don't have proof." He gave me a sympathetic shrug, the kind that says you're not wrong, but we can't do a damn thing unless she signs it with her name. Insurance would cover some of the damage, sure, but it wouldn't bring back that car. It wasn't just about the machine, it was about what it represented. My work, my rise, my identity. Now it was gone, and worse. The neighborhood didn't treat it like a tragedy. No one brought over a pie. No one asked if I was okay. Instead, I started hearing whispers, quiet speculation that maybe I'd faked it for insurance. Karen leaned into that theory with the passion of a tabloid columnist. "Such a shame," she told a gathering of neighbors at the community board meeting. "These flashy cars, they attract the wrong kind of attention. Sometimes dangerous attention." She let the silence hang, then added, "Of course, I hope the authorities find whoever's responsible." She even had the audacity to write me a letter. Yes, another one, this time in elegant calligraphy. "Dear neighbor, we hope this tragic incident leads you to reconsider your choice of vehicle for the safety and tranquility of our community. Please know that the HOA is here to assist in ensuring this never happens again, should you choose to purchase something more appropriate. Warm regards, Karen Whitmore, HOA president." I was livid, but I wasn't stupid. If Karen wanted a war, fine. But this time, I wasn't going to play defense. I hired a private investigator. His name was TJ Russo, ex-cop turned freelancer who looked like he walked off a set of a gritty crime drama. Within a week, he installed cameras around my property, high-end stuff that streamed directly to a secure server. He combed through my neighbor's security footage, filed subpoenas for HOA meeting notes, and shadowed Karen on her daily schedule. What we found was disturbing. Karen had a private Facebook group, Westfield Purity Project, filled with neighborhood watchdogs obsessing over things like mailbox paint tones and the dangers of luxury lifestyle infiltration. There were threads on tactical de-escalation, pages on how to legally weaponize HOA codes, and even a PDF guide on how to make anonymous noise complaints look legitimate. Karen had built a digital army of rule enforcers. Worse, the night of the fire, TJ recovered blurry footage from a nearby traffic cam that showed a woman, short, stocky, ponytail, walking away from my driveway wearing gardening gloves and carrying what looked like a red gas can. Not perfect ID quality, but damning in context. When we gave it to Detective Hernandez, he raised an eyebrow. Still not enough for a warrant, but I'm keeping an eye on her. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't slowing down. She began circulating petitions for a new amendment to the HOA bylaws. No supercars allowed, defined by arbitrary specs that happened to fit the profile of everything I'd ever considered driving. We're trying to maintain a peaceful, family-friendly community, she said in her HOA newsletter. Not a Fast and Furious film set. The kicker? She blamed the fire on car enthusiasts who bring danger with them. I filed a civil suit. Defamation. Harassment. Emotional distress. The HOA tried to dismiss it as a misunderstanding, but my lawyer was sharp and the documentation was growing. TJ found anonymous posts on Reddit forums describing how Karen from Westfield bragged about getting rid of a noise-polluting show-off. She'd written under a burner account, but cross-referencing usernames and timestamps made the connection strong enough to attach to the suit. Suddenly, Karen changed tactics. She went quiet. No more letters. No more stares. At first, it felt like a relief, like maybe she realized she'd gone too far. But that silence was just the eye of the storm. One evening, I came home from work to find my garage door open, despite me being certain I'd closed it that morning. Inside, nothing was stolen, but there were footprints on the tile. Muddy ones, leading right up to the spot where the Lamborghini used to sit, then circling outward. That same night, the camera system cut out for 15 minutes between 2:10 a.m. and 2:25 a.m. Russo said it looked like signal jamming. Somebody knew what they were doing, he muttered. This ain't just HOA Karen being nosy anymore. This is personal. She's escalating. I started sleeping with a baseball bat by my bed. Neighbors stopped talking to me altogether, probably fearing Karen's wrath. I became a pariah in my own neighborhood. One guy, Jeremy, 3 houses down, finally approached me late one night. He looked nervous, like he was betraying some unspoken rule. Listen, he said, you didn't hear from me, but Karen's got friends on the board at city planning. She's been trying to get your home rezoned as a commercial property to force you out. I blinked. That's not even legal. Doesn't matter, he said. She just needs to make enough noise and drown you in paperwork. I called a town hall meeting. I laid out everything, video evidence, threats, photos, social media activity. Karen stood across from me, arms folded like always, calm as a statue. These are wild accusations, she said smoothly. We're a peaceful community. We're just trying to protect our peace. But the cracks were showing. Half the room was silent. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Some started looking at her the way I had when this all began. Like maybe she wasn't the guardian of peace, but its destroyer. Still, nothing definitive came down. No arrests. No judgment. The system was slow, clogged with red tape. But something had shifted. Karen had stopped being smug. Now she was scared. Then, the final warning came. A single sheet of paper slipped under my door. Typed. No handwriting. No greeting, no name. Just one sentence. You're not safe here. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the cameras. I walked the perimeter, and I realized something. Karen didn't just hate my car. She hated me. The note slipped under my door haunted me. You're not safe here. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. Not the kind scrawled in anger or barked in public, but the quiet, unnerving kind. The kind that says, I'm not done with you. After everything, the fire, the threats, the war of whispers, I knew Karen wasn't finished. And neither was I. The next morning, I called TJ and told him we were going scorched earth. First, we went public. Really public. I uploaded a video to YouTube titled, "My HOA President Set My Lamborghini on Fire, the Truth About Westfield Heights." In it, I laid everything bare: Karen's history of harassment, the arson footage, her neighborhood vendetta, and the Facebook group. I blur names, stuck to facts, and ended it with a challenge. If you've been bullied by a power-hungry HOA, speak up. Within 48 hours, the video hit 1.2 million views. I woke up to thousands of messages, support from fellow HOA victims, even offers from journalists wanting to cover the story. More importantly, the pressure hit Westfield Heights like a sledgehammer. Reporters showed up at the community gate. Neighbors ducked and dodged questions. The HOA board called an emergency closed-door meeting, which I wasn't invited to, of course. But someone leaked the minutes. Turns out, Karen had misused HOA funds to pay for administrative expenses, including printing thousands of flyers and hiring a consultant who was actually her niece with a Canvas subscription. Then came the best part. One of the board members, who had stayed silent for months, emailed me a video. It was security footage from the HOA clubhouse, taken the night before the fire. Karen was caught entering the storage shed behind the building and retrieving a 5-gallon gas can. The timestamp? 11:48 p.m., less than 3 hours before my car exploded. She'd never accounted for her whereabouts that night. That, combined with the blurry street cam and the Reddit post, gave the cops what they needed. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Karen Whitmore was arrested for suspected arson, destruction of property, criminal harassment, and misuse of HOA funds. They perp-walked her out of her floral-themed porch in handcuffs, her little white dog yapping at the chaos. I watched from my window as she scowled in disbelief, like the world had betrayed her. But even with the arrest, it wasn't over. The HOA board collapsed in a matter of weeks. Members resigned, one after another, until the whole thing was gutted. A temporary management company took over. The bylaws were frozen pending review, and an independent auditor was brought in. The neighborhood began to split. Some residents clung to Karen's legacy of control, whispering about how she was just trying to protect the community, while others apologized to me in private, admitting they'd been afraid to speak up. But me? I didn't just want vindication. I wanted a reminder. So I bought another Lamborghini. This time, a matte black Aventador SVJ. Louder, faster, bolder. I had it delivered during the HOA's final public meeting, timed perfectly so that the rumble of its V12 engine echoed through the community center like thunder in a cathedral. It was childish, it was petty, and it felt incredible. I parked in the same spot where the last one burned. A few days later, I hosted a block party. Free tacos, local band, open lawn games. No permits, no HOA. Half the neighborhood showed up, and for the first time, I saw people smile without worry. Jeremy brought his grill. The elderly couple across the street, who hadn't spoken to me since the fire, brought peach cobbler. And someone even made Karen-shaped cookies, complete with pink tracksuit icing. But something still gnawed at me. TJ called with one last update. "You're going to want to hear this," he said. Turns out, Karen's crusade against me wasn't just about a car. It was personal. Years ago, her ex-husband had left her for a woman 20 years younger, a luxury car dealer. The same woman now owned a Lambo dealership in the next town over. I'd unknowingly bought my first car from her. Karen had seen the dealership plates, recognized the logo, and snapped. The car wasn't just flashy. It was a rolling symbol of everything she'd lost, everything she resented. Her obsession with HOA standards wasn't about rules. It was about revenge. I didn't feel sorry for her, but I understood. Her trial dragged on for months, during which she was released on house arrest. She no longer strutted across the street. Her yard grew wild. Her mail piled up. Her porch, once spotless, collected dust and silence. I never spoke to her again, but one day I caught her watching me from behind her curtain as I polished the Aventador in the driveway. Her eyes didn't burn with rage anymore, just emptiness. Eventually, I moved out. I sold the house a loss and bought a place in the hills. No HOA, no nosy neighbors, no laminated pamphlets. Just winding roads, mountain views, and enough room for every car I'd ever want to buy. Still, I kept the note. "You're not safe here." I framed it. It hangs in my office now, not as a reminder of fear, but as proof that sometimes the war isn't over the big things. It's over who gets to define peace. Karen tried to make the neighborhood hers. I showed her it wasn't. And the flames she set to drive me out, they lit a fire she couldn't control.